Hello everyone and welcome to the Where in the World series here on the Go Westeros channel. In this episode, just like we did last time, we'll be looking at 3 minor houses of Westeros, what they've been up to, where in the world they are, and how they pertain to the overall story as it's being told. In the last episode, we looked at houses Goodbrook, Crane and Velaryon, and in this episode we'll be looking at houses Rykker of the Crown Lands, Vance of Trenta from the Riverlands, and Dustin of the North. At this point, I should mention that this does contain spoilers for all 5 novels of A Song of Ice and Fire, so if you do not want to be spoiled, I would not continue on much further. I'm Jack, your host, and let's dive right in. House Rykker of Duskendale is a noble house from the Crown Lands. Their words are unknown, but their sigil depicts 2 black warhammers crossed on white, saltire on blue. Their lordly seat is the Dun Fort, which has a large square keep and big drum towers. The Dun Fort sits inside the town of Duskendale. They are sworn directly to the Iron Throne. There are only 2 known Rykkers throughout A Song of Ice and Fire, one being Lord Renford Rykker, the Lord of Duskendale, and an unknown relation, Sir Jeremy Rykker, who is a ranger of the Night's Watch. In history, the Rykkers received the town following the defiance of Duskendale and the fall of House Darkling, the former lords. During Robert's rebellion, Sir Jeremy Rykker fought for the Mad King, Aerys II, and surrendered to House Lannister when they sacked King's Landing. He was given the choice of death or join the Night's Watch, to which he chose the latter. We are introduced to House Rykker in Book 1, A Game of Thrones, through Sir Jeremy. He commands the Rangers in Ben Stark's absence, but unfortunately he is killed by a White at Castle Black. The town of Duskendale itself is only mentioned sporadically throughout. In A Song of Ice and Fire, Sir Helman Tallheart and Robert Glover, whose houses we've covered previously, march on it. They are met by Lord Randall Tarley, who we've covered also, and are defeated in the Battle of Duskendale. And to round out the Rykker short involvement of A Song of Ice and Fire, it is mentioned that Lord Renford Rykker is with Lord Tarley in Duskendale dispensing justice. He leaves Sir Rufus Leake, a one-legged man, as castellan of the Dun Fort, while he's away doing other things. House Vance of Trenta is one of the 2 great branches of House Vance in the Riverlands. The others being the Vances of Wayfarer's Rest, who we've recapped in a previous episode. Their words are not known, but their sigil is a green dragon on white and a white tower on black quartered. Known Vances of Trenta throughout A Song of Ice and Fire include Lord Norbert Vance, the Lord of Trenta and a blind old man, his eldest son and heir Sir Ronald the Bad, his second son Sir Hugo, his third son Sir Ellery, his 4th son Kurth, and his 5th son, who is a maester at the Citadel, one John Vance. A Sir Daffin Vance is of unknown relation. He married Magelle Frey, the daughter of Stevron Frey, and is the father of her 3 children. We are introduced... Oh no, I'm skipping ahead of myself. House Vance was created by a mighty Andal warlord named Ermestad Vance. He defeated King Christopher Mudd IV. In the century of the downfall of House Justman, the Vances were among the petty kings which disputed the Riverlands. The Vances of Trenta joined the Blackwoods and the Tullys in rebellion against King Humphrey Teague I. And in more recent history, it is noted that Lord Norbert Vance squired for the Lord Darry with Sir Brynden Tully the Blackfish in their youth. We are introduced to House Vance in A Game of Thrones. Much like the other River Lords, Lord Norbert declares for Robb Stark during the early outset for the War of the 5 Kings. His sons join Robb's army. In A Storm of Swords, after Catelyn Stark scolds her brother Edmure for complaining about Rosalind Frey's expected lack of beauty, she sees how he avoids her, preferring the company of, among others, the young Vances, Sir Ronald, Sir Ellery, Sir Hugo and Kurth, who are companions of the man. A Vance is seen being hamstrung by Blackwall the Frey during the Red Wedding. It's unknown which Vance this was, but apparently all of Lord Norbert's sons survived the war. Later, in A Storm of Swords, King Tommen signs the pardon of Lord Vance after the war. It's unknown if this is for the Vances of Trenta or the Vances of Wayfarer's Rest, but both are welcomed back into the King's Peace. In his Feast for Crows, Sir Hugo Vance is noted to have survived the Red Wedding. Presumably, he was the one to have travelled to King's Landing to swear his house's fealty to the Iron Throne. He joined Sir Jaime Lannister in Jaime's expedition to besiege Riverrun. Both branches of House Vance are present at the siege, and their lords take part in war council. Lord Norbert offers to parley with the besieged Sir Brynden the Blackfish, whom he squired with, but his offer is turned down. And that's it for the Vances so far. I very much look forward to hearing about them in future books. Winds of Winter, Dream of Spring. I'm quite a big fan of both branches. I think they're quite cool. So yeah, I look forward to that a lot. House Dustin, from the town of Barraton, is a noble house from the north. Their castle is Barrow Hall, inside the town's walls. Their words are not known, but their sigil is 2 crossed, rusted long axes with black shafts, a black crown beneath their points on a yellow field. Barrow Hall is built atop a hill known as Great Barrow. It has wooden walls and square towers. There is an old windmill and a grassy courtyard located near the gatehouse. Wide and wooden stairs lead up the hill to Barrow Hall's keep. The only known member of House Dustin throughout Song of Ice and Fire is Lady Barbary Dustin, the widow of the late Lord Willem Dustin and the Lady of Barraton herself. It is unknown if she has a designated heir. House Stout of Goldgrass, who also make their home at Barraton, is sworn to them. The Dustins claim descent from the first king of the First Men and the Barrow Kings of the Barrow Lands, which they honour with the inclusion of a rusted crown in their sigil. They supported Rhaenys Targaryen in the Great Council of 101 AC at Harrenhal. Lord Roderick Dustin led 2,000 northern soldiers known as the Winter Wolves during the Dance of the Dragons. In more recent history, Lord Willem Dustin was one of the 6 companions of Eddard Stark who fought the Kingsguard Knights and died at the Tower of Joy at the end of Robert's Rebellion. We are introduced to House Dustin in A Game of Thrones through a dream of Ned Stark. He remembers Lord Willem Dustin riding a great red stallion. 4 books later in A Dance with Dragons, they're not mentioned at all, since Maester Aemon sends a raven to Barraton requesting help to defeat the wildlings, but that's it. Again, in the Dance of Dragons, the Risewells and the Dustins surprise the Ironborn on the Fever River, putting their long ships to the torch. Ramsay Bolton and Hotha Umber ride south to join the Dustin and Risewell force preparing to attack Moat Cailin. Lady Barbary Dustin and her vassal, Lord Harwood Stout, host the Boltons at Barraton, which is where the wedding of Ramsay and Arya Stark, actually Jane Paul, is to take place. However, she cannot abide the presence of Ramsay and his bastard boys, who are his companions, and forbids them from the Barrow Hall, as she expects him to have a hand in the death of her nephew, Demeric Bolton, who of course was the son of Lord Roose Bolton. The wedding is moved to Winterfell. Barbary insists on taking custody of fake Arya. Until then, of course, she believes it's actually Arya. Theon Greyjoy sits beside her at the wedding feast. Although Barbary is astute and has good political savvy, she fails to see through Lord Wyman Manderly's behaviour during it. She is offended by Wyman's apparent capitulation, despite his son Wendell dying at the Red Wedding, and dismisses him to Theon as craven to the bone. We of course know better. Wyman is secretly sworn to the Boltons, and this is just after Wyman has his famous pies, who could be possibly made out of the 3 Freys that were in his service at Whitehall. Among the snowmen that the squires build along the battlements of Winterfell, one resembles Barbary. She has Theon lead her into the crypts of Winterfell, where she explains much of her history and story to him. Barbary resents that Ned Stark did not return her husband, Lord Willem's bones, to her. She tells Theon that if Ned's bones are discovered north of the neck, she will ensure that they are never put to rest. Barraton are staunch supporters of the Boltons, mainly due to this grievance. It's also mentioned that she and Brandon Stark, Ned's older brother, were lovers in their youth. She remains at Winterfell for the remainder of the wedding feast. When the Manderleys and the Freys clash due to high tensions and the death of Little Walder, she is notably absent. This is, of course, when Theon escapes the castle with fake Arya Jane Paul. And as we wrap up on House of Dustin, we wrap up on this episode of Where in the World. I hope you've all enjoyed it. I hope you found at least some of what I said helpful in your quest to gain as much knowledge of this brilliant world as possible. Remember to find me on Twitter at GoWesteros. Remember to drop me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the video, a comment, maybe share it, send me a tweet with criticism or advice, or just say hello. I've been Jack, and I'll see you all very, very soon.